what Romney needs out of his convention in Tampa, Florida.
Romney tells USA Today he's frustrated by President Obama's attacks.
I'm Frank Newport, Gallup editor-in-chief.
I'm Susan Page, Washington bureau chief for USA Today.
And this is Election Matters. Well, here I am in Washington, D.C., but Susan, you're right there in the action at the actual convention hall where the Republican convention is being held in Tampa Bay, Florida. Right off the bat, let me just ask you about the tropical storm. It's not going to hit Tampa. It moved significantly to the west, but there's the possibility, which I'm sure a lot of people are talking about there, that it could hit the upper Gulf Coast, and of course that would divert attention away from what's happening in Tampa. Is that a topic of discussion there?
It is. I mean, there's some concern about how it might look if Republicans were celebrating their new nominee here in Tampa while New Orleans or someplace along the Gulf Coast is really getting hit by the tropical storm or even a hurricane. A little bit of concern about that. But I have to say the weather here has been muggy, and we got some rain, but nothing very serious. So this convention is going on.
Good. Well, as we're taping this, we don't know yet exactly what's going to happen, but we'll see Wednesday or Thursday. If it's severe, of course, President Obama might fly down there, and that would divert even more attention away from Mitt Romney. But again, we'll wait and see what happens. Vis-a-vis the convention itself, we have it basically dead even going into this convention. Most candidates historically have gotten a bounce out of the convention, so I'm presuming polling-wise there at the convention in Tampa, Romney's people are expecting to see or would like to see a bounce in his standing in the polls coming out of what happens in Tampa.
You know, I talked to Neil Newhouse, who is Governor Romney's pollster, yesterday, and he said that there's traditionally a bounce. Now that bounce may kind of get sat on because the Democratic convention follows immediately after this convention closes. He says what they want most of all is a bounce in image, in those characteristics that we measure, like cares about people like you or is likable, that's where they think they can see some improvement at this convention.
Yeah, that's obviously where Romney is deficient. In fact, in our latest USA Today Gallup poll, we had a 20-point plus deficit when we asked for Romney, when we asked people who's more likable, Obama or Romney. Obama wins going away. There was a new poll by ABC Washington Post out on Monday which shows the same thing, a similar question, and Obama's just hugely ahead of Romney on that dimension. So presumably what's going to be going on there is they'll try to, along with his spouse and Romney, try to make Romney look more likable. Is that right?
Yes, although I have to say I interviewed Governor Romney on Saturday in Columbus just after he had finished the last event he was doing before the convention. And I asked him about this question of likability, and he said that he had a lot of friends and they like him, and that he is less worried about making Americans like him than making them trust him to be better able to handle our economic problems.
Well, I guess that's a good response because a lot of us know that our personalities probably are not going to change. So if that's his image, that's probably his image. But speaking of that, in our same USA Today Gallup poll, Romney had a 9-point edge over Obama in terms of being able to handle the economy. That's the top problem, Americans tell us. So I would presume another goal there at Tampa will be for the Republicans to try to build on the fact that Americans see Romney at least as somewhat better able to handle the economy than the current incumbent Barack Obama.
Yeah, it's definitely Governor Romney's greatest strength in this election that Americans continue to see him. Despite all the attacks and all these negative ads and then the course of the campaign, Americans continue to see him as better able to handle the economy, and that is his strength and President Obama's biggest vulnerability.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned your interview with Governor Romney. You were in Ohio and interviewed him just a few days ago. Your headline in USA Today really had to do with what you mentioned a minute ago, and that was Romney frustrated by the attacks. Yet when we asked people in our poll, is Obama attacking Romney unfairly? And then we said, is Romney attacking Obama unfairly? Obama was just slightly more likely to be seen as unfair in his attacks than Romney. So it's kind of an even Steven there. So I'm not sure the public would go along with this idea that Romney's being attacked unfairly.
Although, it's interesting. That is, of course, at odds with the image that President Obama had 4 years ago, which was that he is a different kind of politician, that maybe we wouldn't see this kind of politics with an Obama campaign. We're definitely seeing very traditional attack politics on both sides in this campaign. And, I asked Governor Romney, given his advantage on the economy and given all the economic problems that Americans see, Why isn't he pulling ahead? Because we have seen from the start this being a very close-up, almost even race. It continues to be that way. And he blames these attacks that he's had from the Obama side.
We find Republicans nationally more enthusiastic about voting than Democrats, Susan, as you know. In our poll, our certainty to vote shows Republicans a little ahead of Democrats, Romney voters a little ahead of Obama voters. There was some concern on the part of Republicans that Romney, since he wasn't a strong conservative, at least initially wasn't perceived that way, we wouldn't have the enthusiasm on the part of the GOP. What are you seeing there? You think you're picking up signs that the Republicans are going to be gung-ho, and that, of course, translates or will translate into turnout?
You know, there are some problems we thought Romney might have that I don't think he has. One, I think this is a united convention. These people are enthusiastic. These are, of course, Republican activists, but we find that with Republican voters across the country. Boy, what a big asset that is. And that enthusiasm advantage that Barack Obama had 4 years ago over John McCain, that has really flipped. That is an important part of this election, and I think it's one reason the Obama side has invested so heavily in their ground operation to try to turn out their voters, because they are not as enthusiastic as they were 4 years ago.
And of course, Obama will have his chance to, as they say, fire up the base next week in Charlotte. Well, going into this election, this convention, we know the election is basically even. Based on our historical analysis, you know, that means a lot can change between now and the election when candidates are very close at this point. So we're going to monitor what happens during this week, and then you'll be in Charlotte next week, and we'll see where the dust settles when we come back in September. Right, Susan?
That's right, Frank.
I'm Frank Newport, Gallup Editor-in-Chief.
I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
And this is Election Matters.